Hello, guys, and welcome to Football Fan Den UK. Today, I am doing a video with Mitch from the USA, and he is here to talk to us with regards to football, Preston, which is the club he supports, and obviously general sports around the world. For those of you that have been watching my channel, you know that most of the videos I've done up to now have been completely UK football. But obviously, under the current circumstances with the coronavirus and everything, guys, I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. Obviously, with relation to the coronavirus issues and the fact that it has obviously made a massive impact on sport worldwide. First of all, I'd like to introduce Mitch from the US, who is a big UK football fan, a fan of Preston. He's obviously also a sports fan of a US soccer club, as well as being interested in baseball and other sports. But he is very, very passionate about Preston. Hello, Mitch. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, thank you. It's an honor to be here on this great channel that you've created from your own hands, and yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us, mate. It's an honour to have you on and to get a perspective of an American fan on UK football, and also obviously the circumstances we find ourselves in at the minute with sports in general. So when the season came to a halt, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. What was your initial reaction to it? Obviously, with regards to Preston challenging for promotion spots, but did actually lose a couple of games just before the season was halted. So what was your thoughts when the season was just stopped randomly, and obviously to some of us quite a surprise?
Yeah, when the season was halted, as you stated, we started losing some games against middle of the table teams and some higher teams. As I remember, we lost to Millwall and West Brom closer to the ending of the season and the halting of it. I thought it was good for us because we were kind of falling out of our groove after one of our best players, Scott Sinclair, had to get sent off after what he did in the game. I forget what he did. And that really dipped our morale, which is probably why we ended up losing. So I think it's a good that this happened because we're able to regain our confidence, regain our morale, so we can come back fighting. Because as you said, we are fighting for a playoff promotion spot. Currently, we're in sixth, and earlier in the year, in the January December area, we were in 10th and a few points out of the spot. So we were like, oh, we might make it, we might not, but we're really trying to make a charge to get back up to the Prem.
So, with relation to obviously the season stopping and the possibility, it's being talked about that the season is going to be completed. Are you concerned that it might, just randomly starting off the season again, that it might actually have a negative impact on the momentum Preston was building up? Obviously, I know you lost one or two games just before the season stopped, but generally, Preston were doing pretty well and building towards getting that promotion spot, or at least having a chance of being in the promotion spot.
Yeah, when this happened, we really did have a charge going, and it really affected how we started playing once we started losing, and kind of our momentum kind of stopped once we lost to Millwall because they're not a team that's really pushing for the top. They're middle of the table, sustainable, and I think then when that happened, we kind of just lost everything, and we became not motivated anymore. And with if this starts up again, I hope that back at the training grounds we're putting in all the work that we can to hopefully get back to what we were. Especially Daniel Johnson, Tom Barkhusen, and Sean Maguire. Some people call him the Irish Messi for how fast he is, but if those three can get back to what we were doing, I think we have a great chance of not only making the playoffs, but having a good chance of getting promoted through the playoffs.
So, with relation to obviously the season as it stands, was you confident? Was you worried when you was losing them couple of games? Was you worried that was like starting a downward trend, or did you think it was just because of injuries? What was your feeling at that point?
When we started losing, especially the game against Millwall, where we were highly contested, especially in the first half. But once that second half hit, it's like we just didn't show up. we couldn't create chances. And at that point, it was like, oh no, I think our hot streak has come to an end. Like, we've beat some of the big teams in the league. We drew against Leeds, which was a huge game for us, especially at Ellen Road. And I thought that was a turning point. But then when we hit Millwall, it was kind of, oh no, this is probably where it's going to end. So I got really discouraged, but I believe that my Lily Whites, can be able to get back to where we were and fight, because, as you ever know, cold streaks can do more harm than a win streak can if you start losing from it. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair dues, yeah. So anyway, mate, a quick question, because obviously I know you've told me what the audience and fans that are watching are going to want to, are going to probably be asking this question. How does American guy come to support a Lancashire club?
Okay, so when I was a younger kid in America, there was a invitational tournament for lower Premier League clubs and higher championship clubs and some League One clubs. And Preston decided, we're going to take this because we needed the money at the time. And so they were the first ever soccer team or football team, sorry. I call it both. Sorry, my bad. And as I was saying, they came over and they were the first ever team I watched. And I kind of fell in love with the white and blue and just took my heart. And now I've been a supporter, diehard ever since.
Mate, that's honest. It's so refreshing to hear that, because obviously for most UK football fans, they see that the big clubs like Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal all go to America on a regular basis. And even myself, at times I've thought, why is it always the big UK clubs going to America and Australia, and we never, very, very rarely hear about the championship clubs or League One clubs getting to travel around the world in a similar way. And if you remember, I think it was last season, the first time that I'd actually noticed a championship club was involved was when Leeds travelled to Australia last season to play Man United in Australia, which was a massive success. So you telling me that championship clubs were invited to America is quite new news to me, because I didn't know that. Obviously over here in the UK, we get told so much, and it's all about the big clubs. We don't very rarely hear, unless you're a fan of a specific club in a lower league, you don't hear about like clubs like Preston getting invited to places like America and Australia. So obviously you just, you're filling us in with great info there, but also it's refreshing to hear that championship clubs can go to America and attract fans from America, and it's not just all the big clubs. Do you get what I mean? Because yourself, you live in the US, there must be a massive following in the US for the big UK clubs. Do you get what I mean? But not so much for the smaller UK clubs.
Yeah, like some of my friends, as much as I like them dearly as my friends, but I hate them for who they support. No offense to anybody who's watching this who are supporters of the teams, but all my friends are Liverpool fans, City fans, Everton fans, and I'm like, why do you always have to support the big dogs? What's wrong with supporting an underdog in a small team? Like, that's what I fell in love. I love the underdog story, and maybe that's why I kind of fell in love with Preston. And yeah, as you were saying earlier, the fact that you don't hear about the smaller clubs going over is because they're not a big deal where you guys are, but it is for us, because we rarely get international teams that are smaller in size than what you say, like your Manchester United, Cities, and Liverpools. When they come over, it's a big deal. But when the smaller clubs come over, it's also a big deal, because no one really knows about these teams, and then teams over in the UK or Wales or Scotland that come over and play, because these people that pay money to watch the teams, that obviously goes to their bank balance in the UK, and then we buy merchandise, and it just helps everybody across the UK and the US, because you see new things that you wouldn't usually see.
Yeah. So I've never heard of any Scottish clubs coming over there. Have you ever known of Scottish clubs to come over there in the summer?
No, I personally know, but one of my friends, he was somewhere, and I forget where he was, but he remembered watching a Scottish team, like the Scottish Premiership teams. I think it was Hearts of Midlothian or someone like that. not one of the bigger teams in Scotland in the first division, but a relatively big team that came over. And I don't know if he's being truth about it, but I just know that I'm gonna just take his word, and if he's wrong, he's wrong. And but he told me a story how he saw a Scottish team play in America, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
So obviously, I'm picking your brains now because obviously you've got the inside info a little bit more than I have over there. Is there an appetite in America for Scottish football at all? Is there any interest in America or is the interest mainly in the Premier League and obviously the English division?
It's definitely all about the English teams, about the bigger teams, because that's the more attractive, the more popular teams, and everyone likes to be a bandwagon. They like to opt the best teams so they can be like, oh, my team's better than yours because we won such and such and whatever. There's rarely any Scottish representation here in America. But myself, I do support Scottish teams, like Aberdeen. That's my team that I support. Not as diehard as Preston, but I support them pretty regularly. And yeah, I'm unlucky enough not to own a jersey, but hopefully I can get one soon.
Yes, mate, definitely. So the reason what I'm getting at is because obviously, if we go back to, obviously I'm going a bit back in history now, but if we go back to kind of like the Titanic times, a lot of Scots and Irish actually emigrated to America. So that's why I kind of thought there might be some interest in America for Scottish clubs because of the Scottish and Irish connection, family-wise and stuff. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit, especially in the big epicenters where they came in, like Boston, for example, or New York. Though the big places where these people immigrated into from, as you said, the Titanic. So they came from like Southampton and those surrounding areas in Ireland and Scotland. But it's only really in the big cities where you see the small representation of Scottish and Irish teams.
Cool. Well, that's a most helpful bit of info, mate. Because, like I said, I had no idea that smaller, lesser clubs had been getting invited to America, which is fantastic news to me because I want to hear it a bit fairer. Do you get me? Don't get me wrong. I've nothing against the big clubs promoting themselves and stuff like that, but it should be filtering down to help the smaller clubs grow their brand and so that they can have a chance to challenge at the top. Because if a club like Preston and Bolton and Aberdeen and clubs like this don't ever get any sort of promotion around the world, how are they meant to grow to be able to potentially challenge the bigger clubs? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. And when you're talking about that, teams like Aberdeen or Preston, they've really focused on the youth development of homegrown players like Aberdeen. I think they're the top or one of the top teams in Scotland that have produced homegrown talent and sold them on for a profit. That's how they've been able to become a top 3, top 4 team in Scotland.
Yeah.
It's much harder in England to become a big power like United or City, but Preston are making their way up because not so long ago we were in the 4th tier, and we've made steady increases, steady youth development progress, and selling them on for profit, so we can not only grow our stadium but also our club to get to a point where we are today.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, mate. So switching to your account now on Instagram, you have an Instagram account, and it is called Corner of the World Sports, and on that you promote all things to do with American sports, world sports, UK sports, European sports, a bit of everything really. What you've got on your account. Do you want to tell the guys that are watching a little bit about what you do on your Instagram account?
Yeah, thank you. So for my account, I like to mainly focus about American sports because that's where I'm from. But like for big tournaments like the Copa Sudamericana, which is the South American Champions League, if you want to call it that, or the Europa League, whichever one you want to classify it as, or European sports, or maybe sometimes I delve into the world of African sports, but I don't really hear a lot of that from where I am from. It's more about South America, Europe, and East Asia, like Japan, South Korea, all those places. And what I like to do is I like to just spread the word to my American people and UK people or whoever follows me so they can learn about the world sports and how sports impacts people on a day-to-day basis.
I like your account because, like I say, I've told you before, I'm not as clued up with all American sports. Some American sports, obviously, I'm quite familiar with, but it's kind of like the same for you over there. You know, you sometimes may struggle to keep up to scratch, keep up to date with everything that's relevant to the Championship, for example, where it's easier to find out stuff for the Premier League, but not as easy for you being obviously in America to find out stuff about Championship. Well, it can be the same over here. We get a lot of promotion for the NFL and stuff like that,
Yeah,
but we don't. But we don't get a lot over here about baseball. They don't really give us lot that, you know. Do you get what I mean? Like NFL at the minute, they're really pushing to try and tap into the UK market. But
yeah,
other sports in America, do you get what I mean? They're not pushing as much. Do you get what I mean? So obviously, you know, following your account as I do, it's helping me learn a little bit more about sports in America that I'm not familiar with, i.e. basketball as well. Do you know, because I've noticed you do quite a few posts on basketball, baseball, football. Obviously, you guys over there call it soccer, you know. But you know what I mean. You got good variety going on your account.
yeah. And thanks again for that. As I was saying, you were talking about how football and baseball are really the two main pushing into the UK. Last year, the Major League Baseball Association, they created this thing called the Stadium Series, where the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, two of the most storied franchises in Major League Baseball, came over to, I believe, Wembley Stadium, or yeah, it was Wembley Stadium. They played a 3-game
Yeah.
series here, there in the United Kingdom, and it really grew popularity for baseball over there, where you guys really only have cricket and which is really boring in my opinion, but um, but yeah, and the NFL has multiple games in the UK. You always see the Jacksonville Jaguars who always go over to the United Kingdom because they were the team that really supported and really brought up this idea of, oh, let's go play in the United Kingdom. Let's expand our brand because let's face it, sports is all about the money, especially from a business standpoint. But for the players, it could just be, oh, I like to play the game. That's why I play it. But for most people, it's about the money. And especially for the higher ups, it's all about the money. And that's why they like to push into new territories.
No, you're right, mate. And proof that it's in the money is the fact of Tottenham's new stadium because their stadium has been, they've had a brand new stadium made and the pitch is convertible for American sports. It flips over apparently. I've seen like a model of it, you know, on a video, and apparently it all kind of turns over on itself to convert it into an NFL pitch.
Yeah, so yeah, they play games at, as you said, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or the new White Hart Lane. I don't know what the official name for it is yet, but and they also play at Wembley. So they get two venues, and they're huge venues. What is it, like 70,000 plus or something for
No,
both?
Wembley's 90,000, but I think part of the reason that they've done the stadium with Tottenham is because there's quite a bit of people not happy about Wembley being used for American sports because it's the national stadium, because football in the UK is so popular. It's nothing against American sports, but obviously with UK football being so popular, people want to see the cup finals and stuff like that played at Wembley on a perfect pitch. And if you've seen I think it was last year, there was a cup final played. I think it was the FA Cup. Was played after the NFL had used it, and the pitch looked absolutely, you know, it looked a right mess. You know, it did not look like the kind of pitch that a cup final should be played on. So I think that's kind of part of the reason why they've done this thing with the Tottenham Stadium, so that they can start phasing out using Wembley, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying they won't use Wembley, but I think it'll be limited to like really big games from America. If it's not a massive important game, it'll probably get played at Tottenham.
Yeah, and that's how it's been going. Like I believe the football game you're talking about at Wembley was one of the most storied and best franchises in the NFL. I can't really remember who it was because there was a lot of games that happened in England last year, and I'm very surprised how many games we've actually been able to get over the past few years because they only started going over to England in, I believe, 2013 or 2012, where you only had one or two games, and that would be the Jacksonville Jaguars and like the Houston Texans. They would come over, but now you have 5, 6, maybe like 7, 8 games, and now it's just crazy to me that it can work in a different country and this really helps the clubs over here, not clubs, the teams over here, to come over there and show their brand, because then you get more international recognition. Because football, American football as we call it, so I don't mess up with your viewers, American football, as it's in the name, it's only American. It's not international football. And so I think the plan that moving over into Europe, the UK, and then Europe, and then so on and so forth, will really build the brand so everyone can be a fan of everyone, basically.
Yeah, mate. Like I said, there is an appetite over here for American sports, but it's like I say that the problem is obviously you got it's kind of the same as UK clubs coming over there. Do you get what I mean? You got big clubs like Man United and Liverpool coming to America, and I bet over there's probably some what's the word contradictions or confrontation, shall we say, with regards to where they're playing the games. Do you get what I mean? Because obviously, fans of, for example, a baseball club or whatever, if that's their die-hard sport, they don't want to see their pitch being damaged by a completely different sport that they don't follow. Do you get what I mean? And it's kind of the same over here. You've got an appetite for American sports, but the die-hard football fans don't want to see the pitch is damaged by a sport that they don't necessarily, follow.
Yeah, and that's as we were talking earlier, like teams like Liverpool, they're owned by an American franchise, and the team that owns, like the stadium they usually play at is called Fenway Park, which is the oldest stadium in Major League Baseball. That stadium is used by the Boston Red Sox. The good thing about baseball and soccer is that soccer usually ends or starts to end when baseball starts. So like that March, April area is where baseball usually starts to kick up, and soccer, or football as you like to call it, starts to slow down. So there's no really interference between the two sports. So that's why teams are able to come over, like Liverpool, and they are able to come over and play on this baseball stadium that's been converted into a soccer stadium in the outfield.
No, you're right. That's like I say, it's all about the money, in it, mate. It's about the big bucks. It's that, like you just said about the Liverpool owners. Obviously, Tottenham's owners are tapping into. So, mate, onto this this coronavirus and how it is impacting our the sports that we love and are passionate about. How is it impacting America? Because obviously we're well aware that it has brought every sport in the UK to a grinding halt. Not any sport at the minute in the UK is playing. We've just heard that the Olympics are being postponed. We've heard that the European tournament for the national teams has been postponed till next year. So can you tell us what's going on in America?
It's the exact same thing. One by one, major sports leagues like the MLS, the MLB, the NBA, they came to a grind. I wouldn't say the NBA came to a grinding halt, because they kept playing a few games here and there on their schedule, but then they said, yeah, this is too dangerous. We can't play anymore. But leagues like the MLS, who just started in late February, early March, that came to a grinding halt as soon as there was a first reported case in Florida, like Inter Miami, which is the new team in America run by David Beckham. They came to a grinding halt. Like, we can't play this anymore. We're not going to play in front of no fans, because it's not right, playing soccer in front of no fans. And other leagues like the MLB, they were in spring training, which is like a preseason tournament, basically, for as a comparison I'll use. And other leagues like the NHL, who are coming to the end of their season, about to play the playoffs, they also came to an end, and people are trying to decide, should we just give the team with the most points the championship, which would be my Boston Bruins, luckily. And so I hope they do cancel the season so we can get the title, either legitimately or illegitimately. I don't really care. I just want a title. But other leagues have came to a halt almost immediately after it was reported in the States, where big teams are.
So what is the conversation like in America? Is in respect of, obviously, particularly with the football, but is the plan to carry on the season, to scrap it completely? what the what's the general feeling or the general attitude in America in relation to actually continuing leagues or stopping leagues or just scrapping them till the next season, or what's being said?
So for leagues that are towards the end of their season, like the NBA and the NHL, because they're so close to the playoffs, they're thinking that they should just cancel the season and give the team with the most points or the best record, because not all leagues here in America run on points. They usually run on record, like the MLB or the NBA, that go off wins and losses instead of points accumulated from wins and so on and so forth. But for leagues that just started, like the MLB and the MLS, they're just we're gonna take it by year, and we'll see if we can restart the season. And if they do restart the season, they'll definitely shorten the season, so we're not playing like baseball in December, which is like probably a horrible idea. Even though, yeah, we'd finish the season around Christmas, which would be a great Christmas present, but it wouldn't be good for the players because they could get sick, they could get hurt from the hard ground, and it would just, so they're looking to shorten the season and finish it on a timely manner.
See, this is the problem, isn't it, mate? Like, for example, over here, they're talking about carrying on and finishing the league because, the Football League is so close to being finished, which obviously, as fans, we want to see it get finished. But like you just said, when you're altering the season to play at a time when you don't normally play particular sport, for example, football and obviously in America, baseball, and you alter it to a completely different time of the year, you have to also factor in the pitch conditions, because obviously there's a reason why for 100 years or so the football has been played in the winter. There's a reason why in America the baseball is played in the summer. There's reasons for this. Do you know what I mean? It's not just that's when it's come about, because that's like, how can I put it? That's its natural time. Do you get what I mean? So as soon as you start trying to move it to a completely different season in the year, like for example summer or winter, it's gonna have an impact on how injuries can come about and how players are going to respond to playing at a time when they're not used to playing. For example, football players are going to be playing in summer heat, which unless they're an international footballer, they're not used to it. Do you get what I mean? Same as you're saying with baseball, they're going to be playing in winter when they're not used to playing in winter.
Yeah, the only time we would get close to playing in winter is when we have the World Series, which is the championship game. That usually takes a part in like October 20th. Past that point, like we never go into December, and so we end at the end of October, which is basically the cutoff point, or November, December. We never go into those months because it just turns out to be too cold and too dangerous for the players. So when those months come around, that's why we're just like, no, we need to shorten the season so we don't ruin what's been perfected for 150 years, because baseball has been around since 1867 or 1867, I believe, is when the first professional baseball team was created. So ever since then, it's been played in the same months, same year, maybe different amount of games as teams have been created and lost, but overall average, these months have been the months that they've played. And if you change that, you're changing the entire landscape of sports in America, and it just ruins everything that has been perfected, basically.
All we can do is hope that this virus gets sorted out fast, because I know there's a lot of conversation in the UK at the minute, people panic buying and stuff like that and treating it like it's, I mean, the government, in my opinion, are not helping, because they're doing a lot of fear, putting a lot of press releases out that are adding to people's fears. But so I believe in America, Donald Trump came out the other week and gave a press conference in saying that there is actually a drug for this coronavirus. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did, but it's really not even like a real thing. In my opinion, I think Donald Trump is a horrible president. I don't want to get into politics here, but I think he's a bad president because some of the things he says in his press conferences, some are just outright blatantly rude or idiotic of him, but also some things he says are just not true. Like, if we had a cure for the coronavirus, would have came out it would have come out sooner, I mean later than what he said, because he said, "Oh, we'll have we'll have a cure in the next 6 months. His health people are saying, no, it's going to be like a year because it's brand new. We don't know how to fight it. But he's just so blatantly ignorant to what he's told that he doesn't listen to them, and he just says whatever he likes to hear.
Well, I don't know. I don't like say I agree. I don't want to get too much on the political side. But I don't know whether he's made different statements since I watched that video. But I know he did make it quite clear that the American Medical Association has got a potential vaccine on the way, but it'll take 12 months to develop it and process it and all that. But there is actually a drug that's on the market at the minute that isn't for COVID virus, it's for malaria or something like that. And that works. It works against the virus. So I know people have got strong opinions against Donald Trump, and I've got quite a few strong opinions about politicians myself, but I'm not really here to talk about that, and neither are you, to be fair, mate. I just want to get to the bottom of this fact. Is there actually a cure for this virus? That's the key fact. Is there something that will work for this virus? Is Donald Trump being straight and honest about that with this potential other drug that works, or are other governments around the world? That's more my question.
Yeah. So as you said, there is this malaria. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. There's a malaria drug out there that is working in some age groups, like the older people, probably like the 40s to the 60s. That's where they're seeing the most success using this drug. But the younger people, even though yes, they're less, it's rare that they're going to get it because of like how this virus just works. When they get it and they try it on them, it's not as successful as the middle age groups. And so I believe that this drug, yes, it does work because it's been proven, but not for all ages. And that's where I think that it's going to be a problem for the government and the people to responsibly take this and not hoard it from other people just because it's the only thing that works for them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's one of them, and only time's going to tell. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, our government, well, at least the British government and American government, let's hope they get their act together and start getting this under control. Because how long they expect us to live like this is beyond me. And to be quite honest, I know we all have to do our bit at this moment in time, and obviously keep this social distancing, which I'm not a big fan of, but. To be fair, we'll all do our bit as obviously citizens, but it's up to the governments, as far as I'm concerned, mate, to get their act together and do this, because I know from what I've witnessed myself, and this is only my personal opinion, but the British government, for example, knew about this virus weeks and weeks before they actually did anything about it. Do you get what I mean? They seemed so slow. The news started coming out, and as far as I'm concerned, the government in this country reacted so slowly. Do you know what I mean? And they could have been on it. They could have been making preparations straight away. And they'll probably argue that they did. But from a general person just in the UK, I didn't see it. I didn't see no evidence of our government reacting to it immediately. I seen our government seem to be very slow to react to it.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it was here in America when the first reported cases started coming out. For regular people, and then sports players, like some big high-profile players who have got it, like Rudy Gobert. He plays basketball for the Utah Jazz. Like when he got it, the government then started to kick into overdrives. Like, oh, we got to fix this now, instead of, oh, we could have prepared for this in a better way, maybe slowly shut down these leagues with their consent, obviously. But it really didn't become a real problem until Trump came out and made it sound like a problem when it really wasn't. And so when sports players started getting it in these different sports leagues, it started to spread like, I wouldn't say spread like wildfire, but the fans who went to the games with players that had it, who didn't even know they had it in the first place, like Rudy Gobert, they got it, which really made it spread, which made it the case it is today in America.
Mate, it was the same over here. The sports in this country, the Premier League and the Championship and stuff like that, was so slow to react to it. And then, like you say, similar thing. I think it was Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal manager, that got it. And as soon as he got it, bang, straight away, the Football League started scrambling to react to it. Do you get what I mean? And it was like, why, same question. I've got the question. Why did it take somebody to get the virus that was famous before you actually moved and reacted to it? You know, the question's got to be asked, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
shouldn't take till somebody that's famous within a sport gets the virus till governments and football associations and the sports associations start to react to it. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
We could sit here for days and days and days debating this, mate. But unfortunately, we're just General Joe blogs, and not much we can do about it. We have to just hope that the government get their act together and get on top of this, so we can get back to enjoying the sports we love.
Yeah.
So, Mitch, thank you very much for joining me, mate. If you guys want to go and show your support to Mitch on his account on Instagram, it is Corner of the World Sport. Mitch will keep you guys in the loop with what's going on in America in respect of all sports, because you do cover all sports, don't you, mate? Pretty much in America.
Yeah, most sports. Just it's the lower profile that I have a lot of trouble finding news for. But yeah, the big sports: baseball, basketball, soccer, football, soccer, etc. All those. Yeah, that's really what I focus on, and I do get the smaller things in there. So yeah, if you do like my page on Instagram, drop me a follow, and I'll be sure to get in contact with you. And yeah, thank you for having me on this video. It's been an honor, and I've had a great time. Thank you.
All right, I much appreciate it. I was so buzzing to get you on because, like I say, great to get a American perspective on this whole palaver that we're going through at the minute. And obviously, like I said, I'd love to talk to you a bit more at some point in the future properly about Preston, and we can obviously get your passion across to the fans, and they can see what an American fan feels like and how passionate you guys get over there with regards to football. I really appreciate you joining me, Mitch, and be hopefully able to talk again at some point in the future, mate.
Yeah, I can't wait to do another video with you, football fan. Then thank you again, and yeah, have a great day.